Well, I think one of the most important things to realize is that every post on Google Plus is essentially a web page. You can take all of those posts and pin them to a board. For me, what I've noticed, what I've done for myself, even in some cases where I'll have a really great photo or a really great Google Plus post. So this is kind of combining two things. The first is that you can take any Google Plus page or post. You just click on usually just click on the timestamp on in Google Plus, and it'll take you to the full page where you can pin it if you use like the bookmarklet or something like that. Or you can just copy the URL and go into Pinterest and do it that way. So if it has a photo, you can pin from there, which is totally awesome. But in some cases, you may have like a really phenomenal discussion going on, or maybe you have a board that you're trying to promote certain types of things that just aren't on your blog. Maybe you got featured by a really prominent Google Pluser, and you want to take that actual URL and promote that up on Google Pinterest rather, so people can find it and come back to it and be like, oh, check this guy out. There's some great sites out there for quote graphics, and one of them, like recitethis.com, for example. You just go and you can type in a little bit, a small quote, and it'll create something that you pin over to Pinterest. And for those of you who aren't familiar with this feature, once you pin something to Pinterest, you can change the URL. So what I do a lot, and I've done this in a couple of situations where there's just a really great conversation or a great quote or something. I'll take the quote, create a graphic out of it, upload the graphic to Pinterest, and then edit the URL to go back to Google Plus, whatever that discussion was. And so it's an interesting way where sometimes, like another kind of a similar example is that I had a post an infographic that I had created that just went bananas on Google Plus because I shared it as a photo, and so if you clicked on that from Pinterest, it wouldn't go back to the person's website. It would go back to the Google Plus thing. And I think anytime you're trying to marry the two platforms together, it's really nice because, like, if you think about it, we're taking somebody off of Pinterest to an interactive page where they can then follow you, or they could maybe interact with a bunch of different people. Like if you share a circle and it's a great circle of different types of people, you could create a quick graphic for that. Put it up on Pinterest and then link back to that circle. So I mean, I would say, like, look at those two kinds of things, and up on my site, and maybe in what I'll do is I'll paste the URL to the Hangout that Peg and I did in the event page for today. So I'll go dig that up in a minute and paste that in there in the comments section. So if anybody wants to go watch, you could see, and I kind of extended it past there. So.